This is an amazing opening trap in the modern bishop opening, and more than 90% of the players are not aware about this wonderful opening trap. You will have seen the two knight defense a million times. We are going to develop the bishop. Now, bishop is going to pin this knight. We have seen this pawn push, and when the bishop goes back, a very committal move from the black side, we are going to push this pawn, attacking the bishop once more. So he has to retreat with the bishop, and we surprise our opponent with this h5, saying, okay, are you ready to capture this g5 pawn, or you are going to trap the bishop? So he goes for the knight capture this pawn and going for the f7 pawn, but we do not have to worry, and we just push h4. My opponent plays this knight capture this f7 pawn, attacking my queen, but surprisingly you do not have to save your queen, and you capture this bishop. So my opponent goes for this knight capture the queen, and now we are attacking his queen. As the f pawn is pinned, it cannot move, you have to move the queen, and Indian still struggles to find the best move. Indian is suggesting any of the moves, but all the moves are losing. You will see how. Now we play very surprising move with this knight. We are not worried about this knight on d8. So my opponent just developed the knight, but there is a good way to defend this position from the white side. He has to give back the queen with this pawn push, and you would see how. We can just deliver a knight check, and once he has to capture with the queen, if you do not capture with the queen, let's say you move the king, this is a brilliant checkmate in just two moves. You just go here with the rook check, pawn has to capture, and bishop is a wonderful checkmate. Pawn, bishop and knight is covering all the square. So you can surprise your opponent with this trick as well. That is why this pawn push is also very deadly. After we deliver this knight check, he has to capture with the queen, but we will look at this line after some time. So after this knight move, my opponent did not play this pawn push, he rather just develops the knight. But now this is a forced checkmate in just 7 moves. Yes, you heard it right. This is the brilliancy. We go for this another knight sacrifice. Pawn has to take, you cannot move the king. If you move the king, you are going to get checkmated in just 1 move. So you have to capture with the pawn. Now bishop capture. Now my opponent realized that there is no way to save the checkmate. Just you play any of the moves and you are getting checkmated with this pawn capture. So my opponent here just pushed the pawn, but that will not help obviously, and we just capture with the rook, and anything white is playing. White played this bishop check, but we just took the knight, and now the queen moved. This is very helpless for white, and we just deliver this wonderful checkmate. Now let's go for the second line which we were talking about. After this knight is jumping, he has to play this pawn push, and once we deliver a knight check, you have to give the queen back as we discussed. If you do not give the queen back, move the king, you are getting checkmated with this rook capture, and bishop is a checkmate. That is why you have to give up the queen. And once you give up, after this bishop attacks the rook, you do not have to move the rook. If you move the rook, the position is lost, because the pawn capture would come and the pawn would get promoted. We will also capture this knight, so rook should not move, and in this position you have to move the knight back. And once you play this knight back, we have to save the bishop first, because our bishop is very important. And once he develops the knight, again the rook was not moving, so now we capture the rook, king capture, and we play this pawn capture. So after knight going for this bishop, you can move the king, and after this capture, you get this position where we are having 2 rooks, but white is having some extra pawns, and this would be an equal game, slightly better for black. And okay, you cannot capture this with the bishop because you just lose the knight. That is why you have to retreat, and you can play some more moves, and after these moves you would see the position is balanced and black is having an excellent chances of winning. This happens when white is playing the absolute best defense. Let's see the other lines. When we are in this position, he can also play this pawn push, saying okay, bishop is not going to be trapped and he's not going to accept your pawn sacrifice. So we just push the pawn. There are two ways. You can just accept it, or you can just move the knight. Once you just move the knight here, we just gonna capture this, and you see the king side is a bit loose. Rook is coming to g and bishop is getting developed, and we are going to castle the queen side, and this would be good stuff for black. So that is why after this, some of the opponent can just capture here and capture here, and then you might want to go with this knight move. But surprisingly, you again play very wonderful move with this knight capture here. Again, if you just capture your f7 pawn, this would be really a good mistake, because you have this brilliant knight capture. Because if you just capture here, you are getting checkmated, and if you just capture the rook, nevertheless we are going to play the queen move, and there is no stopping the checkmate. That is why you have to accept this knight, and you cannot go for this f7 square. So knight capture this, and once we save the bishop, because bishop is very powerful in all of the lines. So let's say you just develop the knight with white, we are going to push this f pawn push, and now the knight is hanging. Where do you want to place? You cannot place here, cannot place here, queen would capture. So once you go back with the knight, we have this brilliant queen move, and we would try to deliver checkmate in just few moves. And if white want to save the checkmate, you have to give the knight back, and once you capture here and here, knight is jumping in the center, and yes, we are winning completely. Once the queen is just targeting going for the f7 square, you do not have to do that much, because every move is just winning, and we just push the pawn, and the bishop is trapped. Bishop cannot go anywhere. We are going to capture this, and even the queen check would not help that much. We just move the king, and the game is simply over for white. So how was the video? I will be waiting for your comment, and I will see you soon in my next video.